The mining station was burning. Smoke filled the narrow corridors as red emergency lights flashed against metal walls. Hyunsik stood in the center of the main bay, surrounded by bodies of Velthine soldiers. Their crystal-like shells were cracked and broken. He held no weapon now. His hands were empty, covered in purple blood that belonged to the aliens. He could have run. The escape pods were just down the hall. But Hyunsik stayed where he was, breathing slowly, waiting. The doors exploded inward. 20 more Velthine soldiers rushed inside, their insect-like bodies moving fast on 6 legs. They carried plasma rifles that hummed with deadly energy. Behind them came their captain, a massive creature with deep blue crystals covering his body like armor. Human! The captain's voice came through a translator device. You are surrounded. Drop to your knees. Hyunsik looked at each soldier carefully. He counted their weapons. He noted their positions. Then he smiled slightly and raised his hands above his head. Slowly, he went down to his knees. The Velthine soldiers rushed forward. They grabbed his arms, roughly pulling them behind his back. Metal restraints locked around his wrists with a loud click. More restraints went around his ankles. They weren't taking chances. The human is captured, the captain announced. His voice carried pride. After months of hunting, we finally have him. The soldiers cheered in their strange clicking language. They dragged Hyunsik to his feet and pushed him forward. He didn't resist. He walked calmly between them as they led him to their ship. The Velthine vessel was huge, maybe 10 times larger than any human ship. It was called the Crimson Talon, and it lived up to its name. The hull was blood red, shaped like a massive claw. Inside, the corridors were tall and wide, built for creatures much larger than humans. They threw Hyunsik into a cell. The walls were made of some kind of energy field that buzzed constantly. Through the transparent barrier, he could see guards posted outside. 4 of them watching him every moment. Hours passed. Hyunsik sat on the floor, perfectly still. He appeared to be doing nothing, but his mind was working. He counted the seconds between guard rotations. He listened to the sounds of the ship, learning its rhythm. He noticed how the gravity felt slightly lighter than Earth normal. Finally, the captain came. 2 other Velthine followed him, carrying strange devices that looked like torture tools. I am Captain Velthos, the alien said. The energy field disappeared and they entered the cell. You have killed many of my people. Now you will tell us everything about human military operations. Hyunsik looked up at him. I'm just a soldier, he said quietly. I don't know anything important. Velthos made a sound like grinding stones. It might have been laughter. We shall see. The torture began. They used devices that sent electricity through his body. They used chemicals that burned his skin. They used sounds that should have shattered his eardrums. After each session, they asked questions. Where were the human fleets? What were Earth's defenses? How many soldiers did humanity have? Hyunsik told them nothing. He endured the pain silently, his face showing no emotion. The Velthine had never seen anything like it. Most species broke within minutes. This human lasted hours. On the 3rd day, a young Velthine officer named Krinth was assigned to guard duty. He was curious about their prisoner. While the older guards ignored the human, Krinth studied him. Why do you not scream? Krinth asked. His translator made his voice sound like wind through crystals. Hyunsik opened one eye. Would it help? It might make them stop. No, Hyunsik said. It would just tell them they're winning. Krinth didn't understand humans. None of the Velthine did. They were used to species that valued comfort and safety. Humans seemed different, this one especially. Later that day, Krinth was organizing supplies in the data room when he decided to check their prisoner's file. He wanted to know what kind of human could survive such treatment. When he entered Hyunsik's identification code, the computer screen filled with red warning symbols. His name wasn't just Hyunsik. His full military designation was Reaper 01. Krinth's crystals rattled with fear. He had heard stories. Every Velthine soldier had. The Reaper was a legend, a ghost story told to frighten young warriors. They said he had destroyed an entire battle station alone. They said he could move through walls and kill without sound. They said he was death itself in human form. And they had captured him. Krinth ran to find Captain Velthos. He found him in the command center reviewing star maps. Captain, Krinth's voice was high with panic. The prisoner. I checked his file. What about it? Velthos didn't look up from his work. He's the one they call the Reaper. The command center went silent. Every Velthine officer turned to look at Krinth. Velthos's crystals turned a darker shade of blue, a sign of stress in his species. Impossible, Velthos said. The Reaper is just a human propaganda tool. A story to scare us. No, sir. It's in our own intelligence files. This human has destroyed 17 of our installations. He killed over 3,000 of our soldiers. He's classified as a level 9 threat. Velthos stood up slowly. His 6 legs carried him to the computer terminal. He checked the file himself. His body language changed as he read. The confident warrior became cautious and worried. Why would the Reaper let himself be captured? Velthos asked quietly. No one had an answer. Down in his cell, Hyunsik heard the change in the ship's atmosphere. The guards outside his cell were talking in quick, nervous clicks. The lights seemed to flicker more often. The entire crew was on edge now. Good, he thought. He stood up slowly and walked to the energy barrier. One of the guards pointed a rifle at him immediately. Tell your captain I want to speak with him, Hyunsik said calmly. The guard didn't move. Tell him, Hyunsik continued, that if he wants to know why the Reaper allowed himself to be captured, he should come ask me directly. The guard's crystals rattled. He spoke quickly into a communication device. Within minutes, Captain Velthos appeared. He stood outside the cell, studying the human with new eyes. You let us take you, Velthos said. It wasn't a question. Hyunsik smiled. It was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just finished setting a trap. I've been in this cell for 3 days, Hyunsik said. In that time, I've counted every guard rotation. I've memorized the patrol patterns. I've listened to your engine sounds and know exactly what kind of ship this is. I've identified 17 structural weaknesses in this vessel. He paused. And I've been breathing the same air as your crew. Velthos's crystals turned nearly black. What have you done? Nothing yet, Hyunsik said. But you should probably check how many other humans you have on this ship. The captain's eyes widened. He turned and ran toward the command center, shouting orders. Alarms began to sound throughout the ship. In his cell, Hyunsik sat back down on the floor. He closed his eyes and waited. Everything was going according to plan. They had captured what they thought was a man. But they were about to learn what it meant when you captured the Reaper. The hunt was over. Now came the harvest. The torture room on the Crimson Talon was designed for maximum pain. The Valthine had conquered 14 different species, and they had learned how to break all of them. Each species had a weakness. Each species had a breaking point. They brought Hyunsik to this room every day now. Captain Velthos stood outside watching through a window. He needed to understand how this human could resist what no other species could endure. 2 Valthine specialists worked on Hyunsik. They used electrical pulses that should have stopped his heart. They used sonic waves that should have turned his brain to liquid. They used chemicals that should have dissolved his nerves. Hyunsik stayed conscious through all of it. His body shook. Sweat poured down his face. But he didn't scream. He didn't beg. After each session, they asked him questions. How to stop the nanomachines. How to contact Earth Command. Where the human fleets were hiding, he told them nothing. Why doesn't he break? Velthos asked his chief medical officer. The officer, a scientific Valthine named Kelshan, studied the readings. Captain, I don't understand it. His pain receptors are working normally. He feels everything we do to him. But his brain, it processes pain differently than any species we've encountered. Explain. Most species experience pain as an emergency signal. Their bodies and minds work together to make them stop the painful activity immediately. That's survival instinct. But humans, Kelshan paused, searching for words. Humans evolved on a world that tried to kill them constantly. They learned to function through pain, to ignore it when necessary. Their minds can simply decide that pain doesn't matter. Velthos stared at the human through the window. That's not possible. It shouldn't be, Kelshan agreed. But watch. They started a new session. This time they used a device that sent fire through every nerve in Hyunsik's body. It was meant to simulate burning alive. Most species lost consciousness immediately. Some died from the shock alone. Hyunsik's body went rigid. His teeth clenched so hard they should have shattered. Every muscle tensed, but his eyes stayed open. Aware. Present. When they turned off the device, he took a slow breath. Then he looked directly at the window where Velthos stood, even though it was one-way glass and he shouldn't have been able to see out. His eyes found the captain's position exactly. You want to know why I don't break? Hyunsik said, his voice rough but steady. I'll tell you. It's because you're thinking about this wrong. The specialists looked at each other, confused. No prisoner had ever spoken like this during torture. You think pain is a weapon? Hyunsik continued. You think if you hurt me enough, I'll surrender. But you don't understand humans. We evolved on Earth. Do you know what Earth is like? No one answered. Earth has weather that can freeze you solid or burn you to ash. It has diseases that eat your body from inside. It has predators with teeth like knives and poison that stops your heart. It has disasters that swallow entire cities. And humans survived all of it. We didn't survive by being strong. We survived by refusing to quit. He coughed and blood came up, but he kept talking. My ancestors walked thousands of miles on broken feet to find food. They climbed mountains where the air was too thin to breathe. They crossed oceans on wooden boats. They went to war against enemies with better weapons and won because they simply wouldn't stop fighting. Pain? He laughed, a bitter sound. Pain is just information. It tells me I'm still alive. In the observation room, Velthos felt something he had never experienced before when looking at a prisoner. Not pity, not respect, fear. Enough, he ordered. Bring him back to his cell. As the guards took Hyunsik away, Velthos contacted the High Council on the homeworld. He needed to make them understand. On the Valthine homeworld, Bora received the captain's transmission. She listened to his report, her crystals shifting through worried colors. You need to execute him immediately, Bora said. Every moment he remains alive on that ship, he's winning. Winning what? Velthos asked. He's in a cell. He's surrounded by armed guards. His nanomachines are contained in our filtration system. What can he possibly do? Bora pulled up files on her computer. Captain, let me tell you about human history. About their wars. Humans don't fight like we do. We fight for territory, for resources, for survival. Humans fight for ideas, for beliefs, for each other. She brought up images. Ancient battles where humans fought with primitive weapons. They've been killing each other for thousands of years. They got so good at it, they almost destroyed their own planet. Multiple times. They built weapons that could wipe out all life on Earth, and they pointed those weapons at themselves. That's insane, Velthos said. Exactly, Bora agreed. That's what you don't understand. Humans are willing to destroy everything, including themselves, to win. They call it mutually assured destruction. It's a strategy based on the promise of total annihilation. And it worked. It kept them from destroying themselves because every side knew the other was crazy enough to actually do it. She pulled up more recent files. Human military tactics. Look at their modern warfare. They use something called guerrilla tactics. Small groups against large armies. They don't fight fair battles. They strike from hiding, cause chaos, and disappear. They turn your own advantages against you. Your size becomes a disadvantage in tight spaces. Your technology becomes vulnerable to their hacking. Your numbers become a problem when they can't tell which human is a threat. Velthos was beginning to understand. The Reaper isn't trying to escape. No, Bora said. He's waiting. And while he waits, he's inside your head, making you scared, making you uncertain. Every strange sound, every malfunction, every shadow makes you think he's already won. That's psychological warfare. Humans invented it. They perfected it. And the Reaper is a master of it. Back on the Crimson Talon, the situation was getting worse. Small malfunctions had become serious problems. Doors randomly locked or unlocked. Lights went out in entire sections. Computer systems gave false readings. The engineering teams worked around the clock but couldn't fix anything. Every time they repaired one system, another failed. In the prison level, the 9 humans seemed calm. Too calm for people in their situation. The guards watched them constantly, but nothing happened. The humans ate when given food. They slept when the lights dimmed. They exercised in their cells. But in those quiet moments when the guards weren't paying close attention, small things happened. Taiyang would tap his fingers against the wall in a pattern. Morse code, ancient human communication method. He was sending messages. So Min scratched marks on her cell floor with a piece of metal she had pulled from her bed frame. The marks looked random, but they were a countdown. Dongha practiced his exercises slowly, methodically. Each movement was exact. He was preparing his body for combat. And Hyunsik in his cell did something that terrified his guards. He smiled, not a happy smile. Not a crazy smile. A patient smile. The smile of someone waiting for a plan to complete. Krienth, the young officer who had first discovered who the Reaper was, came to speak with him one night. The other guards thought he was foolish, but Krianth needed to understand. "Human," he said through the energy barrier. "Why are you here? What is your purpose?" Hyunsik opened his eyes. "You really want to know?" "Yes. Your empire has been raiding human colonies, taking our people as slaves, killing those who resist. You think we're weak because we're smaller than you. Because we don't have crystal shells or 6 legs. You think you can do whatever you want to us. We are stronger," Krianth said, but his voice was uncertain now. "Physically? Maybe. But strength isn't just about bodies. It's about will. It's about determination. It's about being willing to do whatever it takes to protect your people." Hyunsik stood up. "I'm here to send a message. To your empire, to any empire that thinks humans are easy prey. The message is simple: don't. One human cannot stop an empire." "No," Hyunsik agreed. "But one human can destroy a ship, can kill a crew, can make an empire afraid. Fear spreads faster than disease, Krianth. Right now your crew is afraid. They jump at shadows. They see threats everywhere. They know something is coming, but not when or how. That fear will spread to other ships, other worlds. And eventually your leaders will have to ask themselves, is it worth it? Is attacking humanity worth this fear?" Krianth's crystals rattled. "You would kill us all?" "If I have to," Hyunsik said simply. "But I'd rather you just leave us alone. Your choice." At that moment, alarms began blaring throughout the ship. Red lights flashed. Captain Veltos's voice came over the intercom. "All crew to battle stations. Human fleet detected. We are under attack." Krianth ran toward his post. Behind him he heard the Reaper laugh. Not a cruel laugh. A satisfied laugh. The laugh of someone whose plan was working perfectly. Outside the ship, space filled with light as human vessels dropped out of faster-than-light travel. Dozens of them. Warships, destroyers, carriers. Leading them was the ECS Indomitable, the pride of Earth's fleet. On the bridge of the Indomitable, Admiral Kyung-soo looked at the Valthine ship on his screen. "All ships battle formation. But don't fire yet. Send the message." A communication went out to the Crimson Talon. Just 3 words. "We want him." Inside his cell, Hyunsik closed his eyes. Phase 2 had begun. Soon Phase 3 would start, and the Valthine would learn what it really meant to capture the Reaper. The news spread through the Crimson Talon like poison through veins. Crew members gathered in small groups, whispering about their prisoner. Some went to the ship's computer terminals to look up the files themselves. What they found made their crystals rattle with fear. In one section of the ship, 3 Valthine soldiers sat in their rest area. The oldest one, a warrior named Thelvik, pulled up images on his datapad. "Look at this," he said. The others leaned closer. The screen showed a space station called Kelvin's Gate. It had been one of the Valthine Empire's strongest military bases. The image was dated 2 years ago. The station was massive, home to 5,000 soldiers and equipped with enough weapons to destroy a small planet. Thelvik swiped to the next image. The station was gone. Nothing remained but scattered debris floating in space. "One human did this," he whispered. The reports say he infiltrated the station disguised as a maintenance worker. He spent 3 days learning the layout. Then he set off a chain reaction in the power core. Everyone died. He escaped in a stolen ship just before the explosion. Another soldier, younger and less experienced, shook his head. "How is that possible?" "Our security systems are useless against him," Thelvik interrupted. "Keep reading." The files went on. The Ghost of Proxima incident, where the Reaper had somehow entered a planetary defense network and shut down every weapon system on an entire world. The Valthine military had to abandon their invasion. To this day, they didn't know how he did it. Then there was the Red Knight of Thalasar. A Valthine prison ship carrying human captives had vanished. When it was finally found, all the guards were dead. The prisoners were gone. Security footage showed a single human moving through the ship like smoke, killing silently, opening cells, and leading the humans to escape pods. The Reaper had come for his people. Back on Earth, deep underground in a military command center, Commander Jiwoo sat at her desk. She was a small woman with sharp eyes and gray hair pulled back tight. Around her, dozens of officers worked at computer stations, monitoring situations across the galaxy. A young officer approached her desk. "Commander, we've confirmed it. The Valthine have captured Agent Hyunsik. Jiwoo didn't look surprised. She opened a drawer and pulled out a sealed envelope. Send the signal, she said. Tell our fleet to prepare for Phase 2. Yes, Commander. The officer hesitated. Ma'am, is he going to be okay? Jiwoo smiled slightly. The Valthine think they captured him. But Hyunsik doesn't get caught unless he wants to be caught. Now their most powerful ship has the Reaper inside it. I almost feel sorry for them. Halfway across the galaxy, on the Valthine homeworld, Intelligence Director Bora stood before the High Council. She was different from most Valthine. Her crystals were green instead of blue, marking her as a thinker rather than a warrior. You must understand, Bora said urgently. The Reaper is not like other humans. He is not like anyone we have ever faced. High Chancellor Morvex waved a claw dismissively. He is one human on a ship with 800 Valthine soldiers. What can he possibly do? Bora's crystals turned dark with frustration. That's exactly what the commander at Kelvin's Gate thought. That's what they thought at Proxima. That's what they always think. The Reaper doesn't fight like we fight. He doesn't think like we think. When he enters a battlefield, he has already won. He's just waiting for us to realize it. You give this human too much credit, another council member said. He bleeds. He can be killed. Yes, Bora agreed. But first you have to catch him. And we just put him exactly where he wants to be. Back on the Crimson Talon, Captain Velthos ordered a full search. Find every human on this ship, he commanded. Bring them to me, now. The guards rushed through the vessel. They found humans in cargo holds, in maintenance tunnels, and storage rooms. One by one, they dragged them to the main holding area. There was Tai Yang, a young man with a scar across his cheek. The record said he was a civilian pilot whose ship had been captured near the border. He seemed scared and confused. Next came So Min, a woman who worked as an engineer. She had been taken from a colony world 3 months ago. She kept her eyes down, looking defeated. Then Dong Ha, a large man with rough hands. He was listed as a farmer from a remote settlement. He said nothing as the guards locked him in a cell. In total, they found 9 humans on the ship. All of them had been captured in different raids over the past year. All of them seemed weak and frightened. But Captain Velthos didn't trust appearances anymore. Separate them, he ordered. 1 human per cell. 20 guards in each corridor. I want sensors on every door and camera on every human. While the guards were busy moving prisoners, strange things began happening throughout the ship. Small things at first. A door that wouldn't open properly. A light that flickered and died. A computer terminal that gave wrong readings. The engineering crew checked everything but found no problems. The ship's systems showed normal. Yet the malfunctions continued and spread. In his cell, Hyunsik sat perfectly still. His eyes were closed, but he was listening. Through the walls, he could hear the ship's engines. The hum was changing, becoming slightly irregular. He smiled to himself. 3 cells down from him, Tai Yang was doing the same thing. He appeared to be sleeping, but his trained ears were picking up every sound. Guard rotations, patrol patterns, communication frequencies. On another level, So Min sat in her cell, scratching marks on the wall with her fingernail. To the guards watching through cameras, it looked like she was counting days. But if someone looked closely, they would see the marks formed a map of the ship's power grid. Dong Ha in his cell was exercising. Push-ups, sit-ups, stretches. The guards thought nothing of it. Just a human trying to stay fit in captivity. They didn't notice how he moved. Each exercise was a combat technique. He was keeping his skills sharp. In the command center, a junior officer approached Velthos with a report. Sir, we're detecting unusual activity in our communication arrays. What kind of activity? We're not sure. It's like static. But it started right after we brought the Reaper on board. Velthos felt cold fear run through his body. Is he sending messages? We don't think so. We're not detecting any transmissions. It's more like interference. Find the source, Velthos commanded. Check everything. The engineering teams worked for hours. They traced every wire, checked every circuit. The interference was everywhere and nowhere. It seemed to be coming from the ship itself. One engineer, a clever Valthine named Dorval, had a terrible thought. He went to the medical bay and pulled up the scans they had taken of the Reaper when he was first captured. He looked at them carefully, enhancing the images. There, inside the human's digestive system, thousands of tiny particles so small they were almost invisible. Not food, not natural. Captain, Dorval called urgently over the communication system. The human... He swallowed something, before we captured him. It's in his body. Velthos arrived at the medical bay within minutes. He stared at the scans. What is it? I believe it's some kind of nanotechnology. Microscopic machines. They're being expelled from his body through normal biological processes. Every time he breathes, they enter the air. Every time the air circulates, Dorval's voice trailed off. They spread through the entire ship, Velthos finished. His crystals turned almost black. Sir, there's more. I scanned the other humans. They all have the same particles in their systems. Velthos understood then. The humans hadn't been captured. They had been placed. 9 humans on a ship of 800 Valthine, 9 delivery systems for a weapon they couldn't see or stop. He ran back to the command center. Get me the Reaper, now! The guards brought Hyunsik up from his cell. He walked calmly, showing no fear. When he entered the command center, every Valthine present pointed a weapon at him. What have you done to my ship? Velthos demanded. Hyunsik looked around the command center. He saw the fear in their body language. He saw the weapons pointed at him. And he saw something they hadn't noticed yet. The lights were flickering more often now. The computer screens were showing brief moments of static. I'm just a prisoner, Hyunsik said innocently. What could I possibly do? You poisoned the ship. No, Hyunsik corrected. I gave it an upgrade. Those nanomachines you found? They're connected to me, to all of us. We can't control them remotely. We can't turn them off, but they're learning your ship, mapping every system. And when the time comes, they'll do what they were programmed to do. Which is? Hyunsik's smile was cold. You'll find out soon. Captain Velthos raised his weapon. I should kill you now. You should, Hyunsik agreed. But you won't. Because you're hoping there's a way to stop this. You're hoping I'll tell you how to save your ship. He paused. I won't. The guards dragged him back to his cell. But the damage was done. Every Valthine on the Crimson Talon now knew the truth. They weren't the hunters. They were the prey. And the Reaper was loose in their home. Captain Velthos stared at the human fleet on his viewing screen. He had never seen so many human warships in one place. They surrounded the Crimson Talon in perfect formation. Weapons armed but not firing, sir. They're requesting communication, his officer reported. Put them through. The screen changed to show a human commander. Admiral Kyung-soo was an older man with gray hair and calm eyes. He looked like he had seen many battles and was not impressed by this one. Captain Velthos, the admiral said in perfect Valthine language, you have something that belongs to us. Return our operative and we will allow your ship to leave. Velthos felt anger replace his fear. You dare threaten us? You are outnumbered. One human ship cannot defeat a Valthine warship. You're right, Kyung-soo agreed. One human ship cannot, but I brought 47. And before you think about fighting, you should know that your ship's weapons systems are already compromised. Those nanomachines your prisoner introduced? They've been eating your targeting computers for days now. Velthos turned to his weapons officer. Is this true? The officer checked his systems, his crystals turning pale. Sir, the targeting is showing errors. Multiple errors. I can't get a clear lock on any of their ships. You see, Kyung-soo continued, the Reaper doesn't get captured by accident. He gets captured because it's part of the mission. Your ship was our target, Captain. The most advanced vessel in your fleet. We wanted to study it. We wanted to disable it. And we wanted to send your empire a message. Why, what message? Velthos asked, though he was starting to understand. Don't touch humanity. At that moment, every light on the Crimson Talon went dark. Emergency power failed. Life support systems switched to backup. And in the prison level, every cell door opened with a soft click. The nanomachines had finished their work. Hyunsik stepped out of his cell into the dark corridor. His eyes adjusted quickly to the dim emergency lights. He could see the Valthine guards fumbling with their weapons, confused by the sudden darkness. He moved before they could react. Years of training took over. The first guard went down with a broken crystal shell. The second dropped when Hyunsik took his weapon and used it against him. The third tried to run but didn't make it 3 steps. Down the corridor, the other humans were doing the same. Taiyang moved like water, flowing around guards, striking joints and weak points. Somin had grabbed tools from a maintenance locker and was using them like weapons. Dongha fought with his bare hands, each strike precise and devastating. But it was Hyunsik who moved through the ship like death itself. This was why they called him the Reaper, not because he killed everyone, But because he harvested his enemies like crops efficiently and without mercy, he didn't waste movement. Every step had a purpose. Every action achieved a goal. When he encountered Valthine soldiers, he took their weapons. When he passed computer terminals, he destroyed them. When he found control panels, he sabotaged them. The Valthine crew tried to fight back, but they were at every disadvantage. The corridors were dark. Their weapons weren't working properly. Their communication systems were failing. And the humans knew exactly where to go, because the nanomachines hadn't just disabled systems. They had mapped the entire ship and transmitted that information to the human prisoners through microscopic signals. Every room, every corridor, every weak point, the humans had a complete blueprint in their minds. Tae-young reached the hangar bay first. It was his specialty. He had been a pilot before he became an operative, and he knew ships better than most engineers. He found a small Valthine fighter craft and began working on its systems. The hangar guards tried to stop him. They failed. So-min made her way to engineering. This was her domain. She had trained for years to understand alien technology. The Valthine power systems were complex, but she had been studying them through the walls of her cell for weeks. She found the main reactor control panel and pulled up the interface. Her fingers moved quickly, changing settings, rerouting power. Within minutes, half the ship lost gravity. Valthine soldiers floated helplessly in corridors while the humans, trained for zero-gravity combat, moved through them like sharks through water. Dong-ha went to the weapons control room. It was heavily guarded, but that didn't matter. He moved through the guards like they were training dummies. When he reached the control panel, he didn't try to operate it. He simply smashed it to pieces. The Crimson Talon's weapons were now completely offline, and Hyun-sik made his way toward the bridge. He moved through the ship's central corridor, leaving a trail of defeated guards behind him. Some were dead. Others were unconscious. All were removed from the fight. He reached the bridge doors. They were locked and heavily reinforced. He could hear Captain Velthos inside, shouting orders to his crew. Through the door's small window, Hyun-sik could see the panic on their faces. He pressed the intercom button. "Captain, open the door." "Never." "Then I'll come through it." Hyun-sik placed a small device on the door. He had made it from parts he found in a maintenance room. It wasn't elegant, but it would work. He stepped back and pressed the trigger. The explosion blew the door inward. Smoke filled the bridge. Through it, Hyun-sik walked in like he owned the place. The bridge crew raised their weapons, but their hands were shaking. "Don't," Hyun-sik said calmly. "You're beaten." "You know it, I know it. Let's not waste any more lives." Velthos stood from his command chair. He was a warrior, even if he was afraid. "You will have to kill me." "I don't want to kill you," Hyun-sik said. "I want you to live. I want you to go back to your homeworld and tell them what happened here. I want you to tell them that a single human operative took your best ship without firing a shot from outside. I want you to tell them that humanity is not prey." The captain's crystals shifted colors rapidly, showing his emotional turmoil. Pride warred with fear. Duty fought against survival instinct. "You destroyed my ship." "No," Hyun-sik corrected. "Your ship is fine. Just disabled. In a few hours, my people will restore your systems. You'll be able to limp home, but you'll remember this day. Every time you see a human, you'll remember what happened when you thought you caught one of us." Outside, the human fleet maintained their positions. Admiral Kyung-soo watched his tactical display. Lieutenant Min-soo, his tactical officer, stood beside him. "Admiral, we're receiving a signal from inside the Crimson Talon. It's Agent Hyun-sik. He secured the bridge." "Right on schedule," Kyung-soo said. "Tell the boarding teams to stand by. We'll extract our people and the other human prisoners." "Sir, should we destroy the Valthine ship?" "No, this was never about destruction. This was about sending a message. If we destroy them, they become martyrs. Their empire will want revenge. But if we humiliate them, if we show them that their best ship and best crew couldn't hold a single human operative, that creates fear. And fear leads to caution. You think they'll leave us alone after this?" Kyung-soo smiled slightly. "After this?" "They'll debate it in their councils for years. Some will want revenge, but others will remember the Reaper. They'll remember Kelvin's Gate and Proxima, and now this. They'll ask themselves if humanity is worth the cost, and eventually they'll decide we're not." Back on the bridge of the Crimson Talon, Velthos made his decision. He lowered his weapon. Around him, his crew did the same. "You win, human." "Thank you," Hyun-sik said. Then he did something unexpected. He bowed slightly, a gesture of respect. You fought well. Your crew followed orders even in chaos. That takes courage. I want you to know, I don't hate you. I don't hate your people, but you need to leave mine alone. Velthos studied the human carefully. You could have killed us all. Yes, why didn't you? Because my mission was to stop you, not destroy you. Humans don't want endless war. We just want to be left in peace. But if you force us to fight, we will. And we're very good at it. The human boarding teams arrived shortly after. They were professional and efficient. They collected the human prisoners, checked that none of them were seriously injured, and prepared to leave. Before they left, Somin went to the engineering section and restored the ship's basic systems. Lights came back on. Life support returned to full power. Gravity stabilized. The Crimson Talon would be able to return home. Taeyang stood in the hangar bay looking at the Valthene ships with appreciation. These are good designs, he told a Valthene mechanic. You should be proud of your work. Then he left. Dongha found the guard he had knocked unconscious earlier and helped him to the medical bay. Sorry about your crystals, he said. They should heal. And Hyunsik stood before Captain Velthos one final time. Remember this, Captain. Remember that we came for our people. Remember that we could have destroyed you but chose mercy. And remember that if your empire attacks humanity again, next time we won't be so kind. I will remember, Velthos said quietly. The humans boarded their shuttle and left the Crimson Talon. As they flew back to the Indomitable, Hyunsik looked out the window at the Valthene ship. It was damaged and defeated, but still whole. Still alive, that was the point. Dead enemies didn't learn lessons. Dead enemies couldn't tell stories. But alive enemies? They spread the word. They warned others. They made sure the mistake wasn't repeated. On the Indomitable, Admiral Kyung-soo greeted Hyunsik personally. Agent, your mission was successful. You infiltrated the target. 3 months after the incident with the Crimson Talon, the Valthene High Council gathered in their great hall. The building was massive, built from crystal that caught the light of their twin suns and scattered it in brilliant colors. Normally, this was a place of pride and power. Today, it felt like a tomb. High Chancellor Morvek stood at the center of the council chamber. Around him sat the leaders of the empire. Military commanders, planetary governors, intelligence directors. All of them had read the reports. All of them knew what had happened. Captain Velthos has submitted his full report, Morvek said. I think we all need to hear it directly from him. Velthos entered the chamber. His crystals were dull, a sign of shame in Valthene culture. He walked to the center and stood before his leaders. Tell us exactly what happened, Morvex commanded. For the next hour, Velthos described everything. The capture of the Reaper, the torture that failed, the discovery of the nanomachines, the human fleet's arrival, the taking of his ship from the inside. He left out nothing, even the parts that made him look foolish. When he finished, the chamber was silent. Finally, one of the military commanders spoke. How many humans did this? 10, Velthos answered. 1 operative and 9 prisoners. Against a crew of 800. Impossible. I wish it was, Velthos said. But it happened. I saw it with my own eyes. Intelligence Director Bora stood up. The council needs to understand something. This wasn't a failure of Captain Velthos or his crew. This was a deliberate operation planned by human command. They wanted us to capture the Reaper. They wanted him on our best ship. They used him as a weapon, and we never even realized it until too late. Then we must retaliate, another commander said. We must show humans that we are not afraid. With respect, Bora said carefully, that would be a mistake. We have studied humanity extensively since this incident. What we learned should concern us all. She activated a display showing Earth. Humans evolved on a planet that should have killed them. Extreme weather. Dangerous predators, deadly diseases. But instead of making them weak, it made them incredibly resilient. They learned to adapt to any environment. They learned to overcome any obstacle. They learned to never give up. More images appeared. Ancient human wars. They have been fighting each other for thousands of years. They developed weapons of incredible destruction. Nuclear bombs that can destroy entire cities. Biological weapons that can kill millions. Chemical weapons that cause horrible deaths. And they use these weapons on themselves. The council members shifted uncomfortably. But here's what's most important, Bora continued. Despite all this violence, they didn't destroy themselves. They learned. They created peace between their own nations. They stopped using their worst weapons. They developed rules for war. They became more controlled, more disciplined, more dangerous. She pulled up files on human military operations. In the last 100 years, humans have fought wars against themselves and won. They've developed tactics that turn any disadvantage into an advantage. Small groups using guerrilla warfare can defeat large armies. Covert operatives can sabotage entire systems. Psychological warfare can break enemies without firing a shot. What are you suggesting? Morvex asked. I'm suggesting that we end all hostile actions against humanity immediately. We negotiate peace. We establish borders. We leave them alone. You want us to surrender? A commander shouted. We are the Valthene Empire. We have conquered 14 species. Exactly, Bora said. 14 species that made sense to conquer. Species that were predictable. Species that thought like we do. But humans don't think like us. They don't value the same things. And they're willing to do things we would never consider. She showed footage from the Crimson Talon. Hyunsik walking through the torture chamber, barely able to stand but still refusing to break. Look at this. We used methods that have broken every species we've encountered. This human endured it all. Not because he couldn't feel pain, but because he chose to endure it. That's not normal. That's not natural. That's terrifying. Captain Velthos spoke up. The Reaper told me something before he left. He said humans don't want endless war. They just want to be left in peace. But if forced to fight, they will. And they're very good at it. I believe him. Not because I'm a coward, but because I've seen what one human can do. I don't want to see what all of them can do. The debate went on for hours. Some council members wanted revenge. Others wanted to study humans more. But slowly a consensus formed. The Valthene Empire would seek peace with humanity. On Earth, in the underground command center, Commander Ji-Woo received a message from Valthene Space. She read it carefully, then smiled. They're requesting negotiations, she told her staff. They want to establish a peace treaty. Will we accept? An officer asked. Of course. This was always the goal. We didn't want to fight the Valthene. We just needed to show them that fighting us would cost more than it was worth. She opened a secure channel to Admiral Kyung-soo. Admiral, begin preparations for diplomatic talks. Choose a neutral location, and make sure Agent Hyunsik is included in our delegation. You want the Reaper at peace talks? Absolutely. His presence will remind them why they're negotiating in the first place. 6 weeks later, on neutral station Meridian 7, the peace talks began. The station floated in space between human and Valthene territory, belonging to neither side. It was maintained by a neutral alien species called the Vorath, who specialized in diplomatic solutions. The Valthene delegation arrived first. High Chancellor Morvex led them, along with Bora and several military advisors. They seemed nervous, constantly looking around as if expecting an attack. The human delegation arrived next. Commander Ji-Woo led them, accompanied by Admiral Kyung-soo, several diplomats, and Hyunsik. When Hyunsik entered the negotiation room, every Valthene present tensed. Some reached for weapons they weren't allowed to carry. Bora actually took a step backward. Hyunsik looked different than when they last saw him. He wore a formal Earth military uniform instead of combat gear. His wounds had healed. He looked calm and professional. But to the Valthene, he would always be the Reaper. Thank you for agreeing to these talks, Ji-Woo began. We hope to establish lasting peace between our peoples. We want the same thing, Morvex said carefully. His eyes kept drifting to Hyunsik. The negotiations took 3 days. They discussed borders, trade routes, military restrictions, and protocols for future contact. Both sides made compromises. Both sides agreed to limits on their military activities near each other's territory. On the second day, Morvex asked to speak with Hyunsik privately. Ji-Woo allowed it. In a small conference room, the High Chancellor sat across from the human who had destroyed his Navy's pride. I need to understand, Morvex said. Why did you do it? The torture, the mission, all of it. What drives humans to such extremes? Hyunsik thought for a moment. You really want to know? Yes. It's because we know what it's like to be prey, Hyunsik said. For most of our evolution, humans were hunted. We were food for larger predators. We were weak and slow compared to the animals around us, but we survived by being smart, by working together, by never giving up. That's built into us now. When someone threatens us or our people, We don't just fight back. We become the predator. We become the thing that hunts. But the cost, Morvex said. What you endured on that ship. Was it worth it? Every second of it, Hyunsik answered. Because it saved lives. If we had fought a traditional war, thousands would have died on both sides. But by showing you what one human could do, I made you think twice about attacking all humans. That's worth any amount of pain. Morvex's crystals shifted to a deep blue, a sign of deep thought. We judged your species by your physical bodies. We thought you were weak. We are weak, Hyunsik agreed. Physically, you're stronger. You have natural armor. You have more limbs. You're adapted to fight. But humans don't win because we're strong. We win because we refuse to lose. There's a difference. Your species frightens me, Morvex admitted, and I've led armies for 40 years. Good, Hyunsik said. Fear means respect. Respect means you'll leave us alone. That's all we ever wanted. On the third day, the treaty was signed. Both sides agreed to peace. Borders were established. A communication system was set up for future diplomatic contact. And most importantly, both sides agreed to a clause that forbade military action against each other. As the Valthene delegation prepared to leave, Bora approached Hyunsik one final time. Agent Hyunsik, she said, I have studied your species extensively. I have one question. Are there others like you? Other Reapers? Hyunsik smiled slightly. Every human is like me. We're all capable of what I did. I'm just better trained. But any human, pushed far enough protecting something they love, will do whatever it takes to win. That's what makes us human. Bora's crystals turned pale. Then we made the right decision today. Yes, Hyunsik agreed. You did. The delegations parted peacefully. The Valthene returned to their empire with a message. Humanity was not to be trifled with. The humans returned to Earth with confirmation that the Valthene threat was over. Commander Jiwoo filed her final report on the operation. It was classified at the highest level, but the conclusion was simple. The mission to capture and disable the Crimson Talon had succeeded beyond expectations.